Hey everyone, Emmanuel here. This is Breathwork Part 1. So what you're going to learn in this little section is the very basics of breathing, okay? So if you've just joined the Fight Club or just started training in Systema somewhere, or you've a senior student that just wants to start right from the very beginning again to re-understand their skills, this is the place to start. So remember, with breath work, when you're talking about breathing, it's really quite simple. There's only 3 parts to it. There's an inhale, there's an exhale, and there can be a breath hold if you like. But generally, most of it is in and out. And when I say in, I mean an inhalation, which is through the nose, and then an exhalation through the mouth. Now, again, there's certain situations, maybe you feel like you can breathe in and out through the nose. That's fine. Generally, when we're sleeping or when our breathing is at such a low pace, maybe when we're reading or something, it might be sufficient enough just to breathe in and out through the nose. But what you'll find is with even a little bit of an exertion, you will feel that it will be very hard to get enough air out quick enough through the nose. Okay, so generally for just sitting like this, in and out through the nose might work, but what I want you to do is kind of practice those elements when it's a little bit harder. So it's inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Now, inhaling through the mouth and exhaling through the mouth, again, it is also possible. But what you'll find under great exertion when you do this, there's a tremendous amount of pressure across the chest and onto the heart. So if you're doing wind sprints, you're like, you'll actually feel a big weight on the chest. When you're breathing in through the nose and then out through the mouth, what happens, this circular motion tends to alleviate much more pressure. Now I'm sure there's an incredible explanation in many of the breathing books that are available in Systema or outside with just anybody that studied breathing with any length. It's not necessary. I mean, you can dwell in it if you like. I won't necessarily explain it here. Just for now, understand there's an inhale through the nose, an exhale through the mouth. And I pick usually 3 positions to start with. Seated, so comfortably seated, lying down, and standing. There's no movement yet involved. That'll be in the next parts. But in most cases, most people are disconnected from their breathing. They don't know necessarily not how to breathe, but how to breathe efficiently. We all can breathe, but efficiency is a whole other ballgame. So, sit comfortably, make sure your weight is distributed evenly left and right and backwards and forwards so that your posture and you're upright and your chest is open, you feel good. If it feels uncomfortable, that's fine, because if you're slouching, it might have changed everything. So sitting upright and nice and straight and tall, so that your head, shoulders, everything's lined up and sitting on each other nicely. So you just don't even think about it, but just take an inhale and then take an exhale. And try to, as you exhale, you should feel the body rising on the inhale and exhaling, dropping, but not necessarily the shoulders or the structure, but just the feeling of the lungs filling up, and then exhale them coming down. So there's a small movement, right? Which is a really nice movement to pay attention to. So it's like breathing in, breathing out. And you can kind of see it on me, breathing in, breathing out. And one more, breathing in and breathing out. Good. So if you watch day to day, your natural breathing will change a little bit. Some days I find the quantity of air I can get in a little bit different, and that I can get out a little bit different, and also the quality as well, meaning how smooth that goes in, right? So if you look at somebody that can taste food, or taste any drink of any sort, wine would be the one that comes to mind, where a person's palate, when it's so sensitive, can taste all the spices and all that went into even one little sip of wine or one little bite of food. They can taste the flavors in their mouth, where the average person just shoves food or takes a drink back and has a very basic amount of taste. I want you to become like a connoisseur of your breath now and understand the quality and the quantity and the smoothness and the any words you want to use, guys. Really, any words that you want to use for this is fine. So what I do is I don't put any numbers to it yet, but I just try to pay attention to my inhale, pay attention to my exhale, meaning in terms of the quality and quantity and the smoothness and all that stuff. And then what I do is I'm going to slowly try to stretch this. And what I mean by stretch is taking a little bit more air and exhale a little bit more air. Now, the trick here is this, not to scare yourself in the process. You don't want to you don't want to be forcing the inhale or forcing the exhale. You just want it to gradually take in a little bit more. And you do this by relaxing a little bit more. So if we pick numbers are easy to think about. So if I think of 1 second breathing in, 1 second breathing out, that's probably a little bit quicker than I would normally breathe, let's say when I'm just sitting at home. But it's fine. Now I'm going to do 2. So it's like about 2 seconds, right? And now 3. 2, 3 is somewhere about where we normally breathe, okay, for most people. Now we'll try 4. And 5. And 6. Now the sky's the limit with this. You can go 10. It's really interesting after 10, towards 15 and 20, it gets really interesting. Now, you won't begin there, I understand this. But what you want to do is still start to gradually work your way up, and then you can gradually work your way down. So get to the point where you feel that this is the most amount of air you can take in, and then this is the most amount of air that you can exhale through your body comfortably. This is the most important. I'm talking about comfortable, not like really pushing it and straining yourself. The issue with breathing is if you breathe in such a way, it actually scares the body, or it panics the body, or it feels like something's drastically wrong. So we don't want to get to that point. We don't want to train yourself to panic. We don't want to do those things. We want to train ourselves after time to our body said, this is okay, this is normal. You're not being choked, you're not drowning underwater. You want to keep the body's psyche calm. So you go up the scales like this, 1 to whatever number you can work. For me, I get to about 17, 18, somewhere around 20, and some days a little bit less, some days a little bit more, but roughly in and about there on the inhale and on the exhalation. Now, pay attention closely. You will see that one or the other will be easier for you. You might say that it is easier for me to take in breath, and or vice versa. It might be harder to take in the breath, very easy to exhale the breath. Now, that's generally how it should feel. I'm not telling you what to feel, but that's generally how it is. And there's an old saying, it says that the struggle in life when we first are born is to take that breath. So an inhalation is a little bit of a struggle or an effort, whereas an exhalation is really a relaxation. You die and that's it, you're dead. So it's the exhalation I find a little bit easier. The inhalation is where it becomes tricky, but nonetheless you can play with that yourself. And there's some interesting attributes for both, like if you struggle with the inhale or struggle with the exhale, interesting psychosomatic things there, which is quite interesting. So you work your way up the scales, you come down the scales, and you practice this. You can easily practice when nobody's looking. You might be at a bus stop or sitting in a bus or in a car while you're driving, or a passenger. It doesn't matter. You're just focusing on opening the breath and bringing it down. And what you'll find is after 5, the body, you're taking breaths deeper than you normally take in. And that really calms the body. It's really calming effect on the body. So what do they tell you when you're angry? They say, relax, go for a walk and breathe. Just breathe, try breathe deeper, and it tends to calm you down. Take a deep breath, as the saying goes, right? It's that. So especially if you've had stressful time, this will really help you kind of calm down. And it's vice versa. let's say I'm an athlete, and not at least for the next series of months because we're all quarantined, but when you get back, if you want to psych yourself up or get ready for the game, or you're about to go to an event, or you're about to compete in some sort of competition of some sort, and you want to get yourself up, you speed up the breathing a little bit, so you kind of wake up the body, right? So that your mind and body start to become a little bit more excited and ready for the game, and coming at the game at the level that you need to be at, right? So you can use them both ways, not right or wrong, but generally for our society, we're too stressed and uptight, so taking deep breaths tends to be very good and happy for us, calm us down. So you do this from seated position. I recommend lying down position. So, and the trick again is to be comfortable. So when I first sit, one of the first things I do is I realize like how broken we are. Like we sit, when you tell somebody to sit, especially when they've just done some physical exercise, they kind of sit the way they feel, like how broken they are, right? So don't teach yourself to do that. When you're sitting, I feel my sit bones or my hip bones, and then I feel my spine, and I try to feel how my shoulders and my hips and my head are in good alignment. They're not leaning forward or backwards or left or right, but I feel very symmetrical. And the body is really allowed to kind of hang on itself nicely, right? The same on the ground. So when I go to the ground and I'm lying down, I'll try to get into the picture here, I'd first just lie down, and then later I start to fix myself. So I try to think of my hips and my feet, and my legs, my shoulders, and I try to make sure that I'm, 50-50 left and right, and 50-50 up and down. So it's like I'm very symmetrical. I try to be as symmetrical as I can, right? And you can have your hands beside you, or if you want to feel them open, it's also fine, right? Just don't tense your shoulders up. Just relax your shoulders. Any comfortable position will do. And again, just like before, you inhale, exhale without any numbers. You just try to feel, because sometimes seated and lying down are different, and standing is different as well. Sometimes those three different positions, you might find it easier to breathe in one of those three more than the other. So just take a quick look, and you do the same progression. As I get comfortable, I start to slowly increase my inhale, and then increase my exhale. And I do it very carefully, right? I pay attention to my mind and not trying to panic my body. And you might find, I find when I lie down like this, I can actually get a little bit more air in and a little bit more air out than when I'm seated. And then I feel I can get the most in and out when I'm standing. And again, standing is very similar. So when you're standing, sorry, I had to change that. So when you're standing nice. Again, I kind of relax myself. I can feel my feet now. So I try to make sure my feet are equal. I'm not kind of leaning left or right or forward or backwards, but I'm very symmetrical. Like everything is divided down the middle and across here. So I feel like one quarter, where everything is just really proper. And in other words, it's almost like an honorary guard, like you're totally still, but there will be a little bit of movement in your body, that's fine, but you're trying to be as still as you can, but you can't be completely still. There's always going to be a little bit of a sway, right? And what I'm doing now is just, again, finding my breathing that I have right now, this day, this moment, and then very slowly adding a little bit more on the in and a little bit more on the out. And what I like is sometimes you can actually start to feel how, as you get more air in and more out, you can actually feel the lungs inflating, and you can feel the lungs deflating underneath you. So under the skeletal system, pushing the skeleton, the ribs, the muscles up and out. But I'm not trying to do this. I just feel it because the body feels relaxed, okay? So you start, let's say, from 1, and again, work your way up to whatever number you can make it to. And don't practice this as like, I got to 20 and it's good, and I got to 15 the other day, it's no good or something. It's not meant to be perfected. It's meant to be understood, the breathing. And it's like a small investment that it pays off such big dividends later on in life and in your training. So Start this now, exactly the sequence that I showed you as the part 1 of the breathing. And you can do this every day. For myself personally, I like to do it before I go to bed, and for 5 minutes. And then the same in the morning. So when I get up in the morning, and I'm just in those early hours of the morning, or before I've gotten out of bed, but I'm awake. And again, in bed, I just sit comfortably and I just analyze my breathing, and that's kind of the best time, because you're the most relaxed. When those people that take their heart rate, the best time to take your heart rate, the resting heart rate, is first thing in the morning, because there's no expectation that is influenced, that you're just calm and relaxed, and that's probably going to be the best heart rate that you're going to take throughout the day. So it's a good time first thing in the morning to practice that and see how clean your breathing is when you first wake up. And again, I'll do that 5 minutes just before I actually get up out of bed, and just breathe and see what quality or what quantity I can get. Some days when I inhale, it feels like just butter. It feels so smooth going in, so smooth going out. Other times, not so much. And it all depends on a lot of factors. But I'm not trying to perfect it. I'm just trying to understand it, okay? This would be the first part of the breathing. Please practice this as a study. And then in part 2, we'll go a little bit deeper, a little bit more complex with adding some of the movements. So movement-based, so breathing with movement. But first, in this part 1, you need to find your own breathing, with no other factors. Just think of how often in our life we lie down, how we stand up, and we sit. This is a big part of what we do. So it's important to master this. And then the movement is next, and we'll do that in part 2. I'll see you then. Take care. Keep practicing.